How do I identify my target audience? So right now we're taking some friends' dogs to the groomers. They're out of town and our daughter's been watching them, and so we're taking them over to the groomers. But while we're driving, a question I get asked all the time is how do I identify my target audience? For a small local business, it's sometimes tricky because you're like, well, anybody who, or everybody who likes this. And it's just far too general, far too broad, and you really can't ever please all the people all the time, right? So you've got to think about who your most ideal client is. Who is the person you talk to the best, that loves your stuff the most? And the smaller the better. In fact, Seth Godin always says it's your minimum viable audience. It still has to be viable, big enough that you can do something with. I had a friend who's a PT and he wanted to do disc golfers. I'm going to play disc golf after we drop these dogs off. Well, disc golfers is too small of a group to base a PT practice on. So he loves disc golf like I do. That's great. That's not a minimum viable audience. It's got to be maybe athletes who deal with shoulder and elbow pain. Well, that's going to cover pickleball, and it's going to cover tennis, and it's going to cover disc golf, and it's going to cover, all sorts of things, weightlifters. And so that's an audience that's big enough that you could actually make a business out of. And so anyway, think about who that is, identify who they are. You can have multiple different audiences you could talk to. Just make sure you're identifying them so that when you do marketing, when you do social media posts, you're talking directly to that particular audience.